Good morning, Senator. The Washington Post had a piece yesterday suggesting that you represented perhaps an obstacle to the passage of gun control legislation. I'm wondering, I mean, obviously you do, in a sense, but I'm wondering if the standard practice in Congress should yield to what many perceive to be an extremely urgent situation.
Well, I think it is an urgent situation, and that's why the first hearings held by anybody, House or Senate, is going to be by me and my committee in that. So I wasn't quite sure who they were writing about when I read the article, but I will strongly defend the press right to print anything they want, accurate or otherwise. But the fact is, I will, and I'm not suggesting whether this was accurate or not, but I would point out that I have a track record of getting legislation passed. There are some who say nothing will pass. I disagree with that. What I'm interested in is what we can get. I'm interested in. I'm not interested in those who say nothing can pass. Of course not. I think, for example, we can close the gun sale loopholes. You know, these people have these open gun sales, traveling gun sales, whatnot. That's a huge loophole. I think we can tighten up our background checks. There's a number of things we can do. Is there any one solution that would stop what happened in Newtown? No. In different parts of the country, different ways. But I'll tell you one thing. About the only gun law we have in Vermont is during deer season. If you have a semi-automatic, you can't have more than 6 rounds in it. Are we really, as a nation, saying we're going to be more protective of the deer than we are of our children? I think not.
I apologize for another question about potential gun control legislation, but given that a lot of talk in the media has been around sort of high-capacity magazines and these weapons that have been used, military-grade weapons that have been used in mass killings, but a large percentage of gun violence in the United States is ordinary weapons that are purchased illegally. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, I guess, if there are any policies you foresee coming through about secondhand market illegal gun purchases and things to limit that.
Yeah, well, the gun show loophole is one that has to be closed. I mean, I voted, contrary to suggestion made one of these presidents, I voted for the 1994 assault weapons ban. And I think it should not have been allowed to expire. It was. I voted to ban cop killer bullets, the so-called high penetration bullets. And the gun show loophole, say you have a car and you're going to sell it to me. You've got to go through all kinds of registration. You've got to pay taxes. You've got to do all the other things. We transferred one of our cars to one of our sons here recently. We had to go through all the things, motor vehicle department, transfer the whatever it cost. Why somebody should be able to go into a gun show and buy any kind of a thing without any kind of the background check you might have otherwise, at least not an enforceable one, I can't understand that. I really can't. I think that we should have stricter background checks, and I think that they should be real ones. If you have there's restraining orders on you, other things, we ought to be able to do that. Now, and I realize every state's different. I mean, we have, as I said, Vermont has virtually no gun laws. You could carry a loaded concealed weapon in Vermont this afternoon if you were there with no permit. We also have one of the lowest crime rates in the country, but not because of that. We are, as a society, we're very law-abiding. But would that stop somebody who is mentally unhinged from going out and using a gun, knife, or anything else to kill people? No. the president's right when he says there are a whole lot of factors involved here. So I'm anxious to be at this meeting this morning and hear their proposals, and they will be considered in the Judiciary Committee. But also, I'm open to anybody else's. Can we pass a law that will stop all gun violence? No, we can't pass a law that will stop all drunk driving accidents. We can't stop a law that's going to stop cancer. But the fact that we can't do something with perfection doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. There are things we should do. And these large magazines, the assault weapons, the gun show loopholes, of course those have to be addressed. I mean, again, in Vermont, we restrict the number of rounds you can have in your semi-automatic for deer hunting. I think we ought to be as protective of our children as our deer.
Not strictly a Judiciary Committee question, but the filibuster has been frequently discussed as a barrier to passing lots of legislation across the board. So I was just wondering, with your many years in the Senate, a lot of the recent proposals are also proposed by more newer senators, Merkley, Senator Udall. So I was wondering if you had any reservations about any of those proposals, and just any details about how you feel about the
No, I
resolution.
think there should, I agree with many of the newer senators, there's going to be some significant change. I felt that same way when I first came here. One of my very first assignments has been here for just a few months was to work within Senator Mondale of Minnesota, later vice president, to change the filibuster rule we had at that time, to move it effectively from 67 to 60. But what has happened now, I mean, a filibuster is one thing to protect the minority. You got a major issue. I happen to disagree with those who filibustered the civil rights laws, but it was a major enough issue in this country that it required the debate to go forward, and finally they were passed. But when you have one person who may even call from the airport and say, "I'll put a hold on this bill, I'm not prepared to vote for it," and so the bill doesn't come forward, that's baloney. If you want to actually stand up on something, then get on the floor and do it. Because so many of the holds and the so-called silent filibusters are for some of the most picayune, nonsensical things. This has become ridiculous. Best example, dozens and dozens and dozens of judicial nominees get held for month after month after month. You know, they've been nominated, they've gone through the Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously, and basically having to shut down their law practice because they're going to become a federal judge, and then for months and months and months are in this limbo because we can't bring it to a vote. And then when we finally do bring it to a vote, they get 95 votes, 98 votes out of 100. No, this is allowing people to vote maybe, not yes or no. If you really feel strongly about an issue, sure, come on the floor. Our rules allow you to debate it. But on some of these things, or most of these things, I don't find anybody feels that strongly about. They're willing to stand up and explain to the American public on C-SPAN and on the congressional record, here's why I'm opposing it, because usually their reasons do not stand the light of day.